When the Children Cry is about what's going on in Israel, Palestine, is what's going on in Ukraine.
40 years
It's a
later.
song. It's a song
Absolutely.
I wrote in 1985 in my manager's basement. Um, it's just what it is. It's timeless.
Mm-hmm.
It.
You got one of my questions right off the bat here about When the Children Cry. I did want to thank you for writing that song because 40 years later, still my favorite song from the 80s by far. Love the song. Huge treat to have you here just for that. Like having the guy who wrote that song on my show is incredible. But the
Oh, well, I appreciate
relevancy,
it.
talking about timeless, the relevancy of a song like that 40 years later and being able to apply that to just a plethora of different events over the years, it's always relevant. At the time when you're writing that song, is that something you're trying to do?
Of course not. It would simply just be natural because if I had said that, I've told this story 5 million times from
I'm
the
sure.
States and
Yeah.
or in interviews and things like that. But you got to kind of like just look at the scenario at that time. Ronald Reagan is the president.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, America is feared in every corner of the world for just being a strong country.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling at a rock concert is celebration. People are happy. Everywhere I go, people are having a party. Money is flowing from the record companies. Rock and roll radio is just kicking ass. Every arena show with a rock band is selling out. I mean, everything is great. And here I am sitting in my cowboy boots, my Levi's 501 blues, and my long blonde hair, and my acoustic guitar, writing "No More Presidents" and "All the Wars Will End."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I can only because I can't really defend it. I can't really say where it comes from, but at the same time, I could just look back to Copenhagen and the protests that were, at the time of Vietnam and stuff like, even though we have had nothing to do with it.
Right.
So I grew up seeing that in a different way, and it had its impact on me, knowing what it was and how the older kids or like the signs and the things that were written on the signs, it just left something in me that later on I would pull out and use and make sense of it.
So it's those earlier influences that we talked about, the Dylans and the Youngs and the CSNYs and the Crosbys and all of them. 10 years later, those influences are still at the tip of your tongue, so to speak, or at the point of your pen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and the funny thing is that, the thing that made, as much as I love the rock and roll, I mean, I came to the U.S. sort of like, wanting to, follow in the footsteps of Dave Lee Roth that stood for the complete opposite of what we're
Right.
talking about.
That's funny.
So these are one of those things that no matter what you think you want to be, you your your DNA is your DNA, and
That's
my
right.
upbringing or my lack of upbringing, coming from a divorced, family, three boys, and my mom worked in a bar around the corner. I mean, we had nothing, but we had everything. We had freedom, and our mom giving us that freedom, we didn't need to rebel.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things would stick with me, both in how strong my mom were when she had nothing, and to me it would always be, there's no quitting, there's no surrendering, there's no returning, there's only forward.
And over the years of your catalog, freedom is definitely a theme that you can find sprinkled throughout your music. There's a lot of different songs about freedom over the course of your career, so that always stuck with you, and that shines through within your art as a consumer. I hear that.